It's been an interesting week there, Richard. We've gotten all kinds of new deals, and there's a lot happening around crowdfunding lawyers. What for this summer are you really excited that we're working on and paying attention to?
I'm excited you're going to leave for a month.
I think everybody's excited I'm going to go.
We're just like, cats away. Mice will play.
Time for the party. Nope, so I'm going to do a vow renewal and going to be in Portugal. And you're all invited. Let's make sure that this doesn't go out until August.
All expenses paid.
Yep, no, it's so I'm focused a lot on getting things streamlined and well systematized so that we are able to take off for a little bit of time here and there.
So cool. A month off.
I don't, you know what, I'm at least leveraging the, this is for a vow renewal. My first wedding was with Elvis. It was Jasmine, me, Elvis, Reverend Love, and some guy that played the piano for Elvis.
That's awesome.
We quite literally, we told our parents about a month later. Quite literally, like, yeah, nope. That's way too much of a pain. Let's keep this nice and simple. So now this is actually 16 years later. It's official. Like we made it at least this far.
Right.
So it's time to throw that actual wedding for the friends and family.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So when you got married, what happened? Like, did you have a big wedding or something?
Well, when I got married the first time, it was a big wedding. My ex-wife is Polish, and she's from Buffalo, New York, and there's nothing to do in Buffalo but watch sports and go to big-ass weddings. And so, you ever see my big Fat Greek wedding?
Yep.
It was like my big Fat Polish wedding. So my family had like a table, and her family had hundreds of people and another thing. It was just a big, ridiculous thing. Second wedding, I said, forget that. We had 17 people, including the Justice of the Peace and the harp players. So it was a much smaller, much cooler event. And I highly recommend the latter to anyone gonna get hitched.
And that's totally why we did. We got married at the Little White Wedding Chapel where Bruce Willis and Britney Spears, hey, this is a well-known place. Let's go get married.
That's the way to do it, man.
It was
Catering
so
and
much
all this
easier.
stuff is just ridiculous.
So was that was your second wedding before you went to law school or afterwards?
It was literally the day after the bar results came back. So the bar results were released November 4th. I got married November 5th. So if I had failed the bar, it would have been a really, really awkward weekend. But fortunately, I passed.
I'm really glad you passed. I kind of feel like that's probably one of those, yes, we had it all planned, but we're going to put it on.
Postpone for a few months, maybe until after February.
Exactly. And from there, you went and worked at one of these big law firms that was nothing like what you're doing anymore at this point.
No.
What was your first job as a realtor?
I was a patent litigator.
I have no clue what that means.
It was so I did a lot of what's called troll defense work, where you have someone who buys close to expired patents from a bankrupt company and then sues everybody in the industry that's in any way related to what the patent covers. So you infringe our patents, blah 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 blah, and what they're completely frivolous, but what they're hoping for is that you'll pay them off $25,000 or whatever, $10,000 to go away, because it's much more expensive to fight than to just settle. And if you sue 250 companies and you can get them all to settle for $10,000, you've got a pretty good month. So my job was mostly to try to get the settlement number down as low as possible, but rarely did anything ever go to trial.
To get it as low as possible, I mean, would all these companies actually really be responsible? They just didn't want to fight it and didn't really make sense?
I mean, rarely was any of these suits, like, did any of these suits have any substance? They were just related to the industry this company was in, and so maybe they made a product that did something that's similar to the patent, but it really was, I mean, it's just a bad system where it costs more to prove yourself right than to just pay somebody off. So you go through motion practice and you go through, you know, submitting documents that show kind of just like what are your chances of succeeding or failing, and the more likely the defenses to succeed, the lower the number tends to go.
And I also think it's, well, the higher the legal cost, the higher the settlement if it actually goes to trial, or, you know, it seems like not the best system. I was actually just doing some research and talking to somebody about Mark Cuban. Actually got sued by the SEC for like some insider trading thing, and they offered him that he could settle for like $1 million. And he said no. And he fought it. And he won. But he spent $2 million proving that he was not responsible.
I mean, it's principle of the matter, right? So if you've got the war chest, you know, just go for it.
But is there anything that anybody can do to plan in advance to minimize that risk?
Don't go into business. I mean, if you're in any kind of technology business, like, the patent trolls are going to be there. It's just part of the game, unfortunately.
Well, I was going to suggest hire an attorney, because transactional attorneys on the front end are always cheaper than the litigation attorneys after a problem starts. But that's quite literally the entire substance of our business, is to help people get into business while minimizing their risks.
I think in what we do, unlike avoiding patent trolls, which you can't really, like, in our business, you can head off a lot of problems in the past.
Do you think that there are a patent troll type that relates to our business?
I mean, there's securities plaintiffs' attorneys that file frivolous suits, you know, and one of our clients had a attempted class action against him. It got promptly thrown out, but you know, there's firms out there that's their business, is they're gonna just go after people, and it's sad. I wish that Congress would do something about it, but in the meantime, that's just the business.
Kind of a separate but related person. I know there are kind of those troll investors. Sometimes it's the low-hanging fruit. If somebody calls you and says, "Hey, what you got? I know I don't know you, but I want to invest in your deal." That actually, from experience, it could be a state regulator trying to find out what you're doing, or it could be one of these plaintiffs that often is connected to an attorney that brings those class actions. Mm-hmm. And so that's where you really need to be careful about, well, if it's too good to be true, often it is. So, and now, man, how long ago did you quit the intellectual property litigation?
I got laid off, and which was fine because I wasn't terribly enjoying the work anyway. And around the time I'd gotten into real estate investing, so I'm like, I'm just going to be a real estate investor. So I took the layoff, and my firm was great, and they gave me a nice long runway. I couldn't complain. They were wonderful, and started just investing in real estate, doing wholesales, doing buy and holds, and whatever. And stopped practicing law for a couple years.
Congratulations.
It's right?
It's a tough thing to do sometimes.
It's like leaving the Mafia, though. You get sucked right back in.
Let me apologize to you now,
right,
for sucking you back in.
That's true. So the story is, you know the story, but for other people that don't know the story.
He doesn't know the story.
He doesn't know the story. So the mysterious person off camera over there. I did a syndication to develop some property in Arizona, and come to find out, I'm a terrible syndicator. I'm really bad at raising money. I got no sales game whatsoever.
But if you can't do, then teach.
I don't teach it real well either. So you were my securities attorney, and over the course of the transaction, we made friends. You found out I was an attorney, and gave me some overflow work, and then he promptly fired me. And then a few months
It's okay, I fire everybody.
He did. He actually fired me. Hired me back a few months later, and I don't know what I did. I reviewed something for you, and I said something, and you thought it was like the most brilliant thing ever. So I got to keep working, and now here we are.
You know, I don't even remember the firing, but like I said, I fire everybody, so I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, you totally fired me.
Well, that was probably 7-8 years ago now. Like, time flies when you're having fun. So, and since then, since you started working with us daily, tell me about what's been going on with your clients, your practice, your focuses.
I have focused pretty much exclusively on securities offerings, private securities under Reg D. Most of my clients are multifamily investors, so these are people that are buying large apartment complexes, apartment communities, and nobody, these are $5, $10, $15 million properties. Not too many people can stroke a check for that, even if they have 80% financing. Most people can't really come up with the difference. So my clients go out and they raise money from passive investors who don't want to do any work, who don't want to deal with taxes and tenants and toilets. They just want to put their money in something and have that money grow and get cash flow every month or every quarter. So my clients raise money from passive investors following the securities laws, which is what we help them do. And they go and they buy these big awesome properties and run them.
Absolutely love it. And we have a lot of those transactions going on now.
It's crazy.
I don't know if you've ever done the math, like how much we've actually closed in terms of real estate on an annual basis. Do you have any clue?
I have no idea. We stopped counting at about $1 billion. So who knows what it is now.
Feels like it's probably well north of that on an annual basis.
Probably
There's so much
close.
happening. I love it. And then let's fast forward to 2020. You just give the story. How did we end up, you now as a partner, in us running Crowdfunding Lawyers?
Well, just a big lesson is always be nice to your competition. And we had a firm that there was a competitor that kind of dealt in the same niche of doing a lot of real estate funds and real estate syndications, and we would see each other at conventions, and we got our booth and they got their booth and whatever, and so just kind of started talking, and I made friends with a woman that was running one of these firms, and she was wanting to get out of the business, and we were friends on Facebook. We just like each other's pictures of the kids and whatever, and just kind of just
thumbs up.
And she just sent me a message out of the blue one day and was like, "Do you want to come run my firm?" And I was like, "No." It's like, "Do you want to sell your firm?" Maybe. And so we got to talking, and we worked out a really good arrangement where we were able to acquire the firm, and we kept all of the staff in place, and just kept picked up the baton right where she left it off and kept running, and it's worked out gloriously.
It's been an interesting few years. How do you feel? Like, tell your story about what's happened since 2020 with Crowdfunding Lawyers.
Oh my God, the learning never stops. Before acquiring the firm, I was very much a practitioner. I was neck deep in the deals. I was touching everything. I was emailing with the clients and talking on the phone and reviewing, getting into the deeds and the title work and the restrictions and, loan documents and all this stuff. And I had one attorney working under me, just kind of being a draft horse, and that was my world. And poof, all of a sudden we have, staff and, all these different departments and systems and, other attorneys and whatever. And I had to very quickly, and I'm still learning, I haven't learned this yet, but I very quickly started learning how to be a business owner rather than a practicing attorney. So I'm working very, very hard, not there yet, trying, working very hard not to do day-to-day legal work and to trust my team to handle those things so that I can focus on the business.
It does it takes a massive change in the way you're thinking.
For sure.
So I try not to beat you up too much about it, but I know I beat you up about it sometimes. But, for myself, I've always been an entrepreneur. And so kind of having that mindset of setting up the system, creating the organization, having the team that can do so much more than I as an individual could has just been my modus operandi forever, since even well before I first opened my firm, or one of my firms, Dodson Legal Group, back in 2007, and it just continues to grow and expand. And fast forwarding to today, between everything that we're doing, describe your team.
Well, we've got between our different practice groups, we've got 9 attorneys under us now. And
that sounds about right, because I was counting it all up, and between everything, including us, we got 14 attorneys running around. Like, we've passed the little small law firm. Like, this is like mid-cap at this point. Great feeling.
So we've got us. We've got some family law attorneys that I don't interact with too much. Not because I don't like them, just because
divorces are messy. They're not a lot of fun, but I gotta say, they come back with the best stories.
It's true.
Our stories of like, oh, this lender demanded some ridiculous opinion, really is not all that exciting. So the number of dick pics that my wife ends up getting from cheating husbands, from their wives, but as part of the divorce proceedings, it's way more entertaining. But I would not trade what we do for the world, even for those.
Mm-hmm. I don't ever want to do litigation again.
And you know what? Not only that, I never want to be in litigation, and I never want our clients to be in litigation. And that's kind of where I see our role is to make sure that you're doing stuff right, so you don't end up on the wrong side of not even the law. Like, you don't have to break the law, but if you don't plan properly, and if you don't take the right steps and best practices, you can still be sued. There can still get drug into court, because it goes back to those patent trolls. It's not necessarily about winning. It's about causing as much pain as possible and settling for less. And at least from my perspective, I think that the only way to stop that is to be really instituting the best practices. And even if you foresee a change in the market, there's a way to work with your investors, to structure your deal, to communicate with them, to really minimize that risk of somebody taking action.